Are you taking care of a loved one who is chronically ill, has a disability, or is a senior citizen in declining health? Are you or someone you know a family caregiver? Then stay tuned for Health Watch. Hello, I'm Terrence Affer Anderson, and this is Health Watch. In 2006, the National Family Caregiver Association and the National Center on Caregiving of the Family Caregiver Alliance reported that in 2004, there were more than 740,000 Virginians serving as family caregivers, providing $793 million of care, worth some $7,868 million. Nationally, more than 65 million people, 29% of the U.S. population, provide care for a chronically ill, disabled, or aging family member or friend during any given year. The value of services that family service caregivers provide for free when caring for older adults is estimated at an astonishing $375 billion, almost twice as much as is actually spent on home care and nursing home services combined. In 2007, family caregivers caring for someone aged 50 years or older spent an average of $5,531 in out-of-pocket caregiving expenses, more than 10% of the median income for a family caregiver that year. 78% of adults living in communities in need of long-term care depend on family as friends as their only source of help. American caregivers are too often an unheralded asset to the public health, unsung heroes who labor in silence and who profoundly lighten an already stressed and fragile American economy. November is National Family Caregivers Month, and on this edition of Health Watch, we're going to take a closer look at these dedicated servants. And if you have any doubt of the critically important role they play in the American healthcare system and the vital role that they play to those to whom they provide care, consider the following. 36% of family caregivers care for a parent. 7 out of 10 caregivers are caring for loved ones aged 50 years or older. 1.4 million children aged 8 to 18 provide care for an adult relative. 72% of these children are caring for a parent or grandparent. 64% live in the same household. The typical family caregiver is a 49-year-old woman caring for her widowed 69-year-old mother who does not live with her. She is married and employed. Approximately 66% of family caregivers are women. More than 37% of female caregivers have children or grandchildren living with them under the age of 18. Women who are family caregivers are 2.5 times more likely than non-caregivers to live in poverty and 5 times more likely to receive Supplemental Security Income, SSI. The average number of hours family caregivers spend caring for their loved ones is 20 hours per week. Yet 13% of family caregivers are often providing care for more than 40 hours a week. 14% of family caregivers care for special needs children, with an estimated 16.8 million caring for special needs children under the age of 18. 55% of these caregivers are caring for their own children. During the 2009 economic downturn, 1 in 5 family caregivers had to move into the same home with their loved ones to cut expenses. Lastly, 47% of working caregivers indicate that an increase in caregiving expenses has caused them to use up all or most of their savings. So you see, we're talking about a very enduring breed of American here, people who truly exemplify what is best defined as a labor of love. As we take a look today at the important work done by family caregivers, we have a couple of experts, guests who speak with great passion about caregivers and will help us paint a compelling portrait of the American family caregiver. Join me now, please, in welcoming Carol LaFauci, a geriatric nurse practitioner who has also served as a family caregiver for both of her parents and is a member of the National Family Caregivers Association. Also joining us today is John Skirvin, Chief Executive Officer, Senior Services of Southeastern Virginia, and is also making a return visit to Health Watch. Welcome to Health Watch, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, we got through all of those numbers. That statistical information is so very important, and it does in fact help us to get some idea of the great contribution American caregivers are making. But I'd like to begin today, Carol, with, if you would allow, please, to talk about your own experiences as a caregiver. You took care of both of your parents.
Yes, I did. I like to refer it as more of a journey of caregiving. I started my journey taking care of my father When my parents decided to move from Salt Lake City, where they were living, my father was very independent. He was driving, and they'd got to the point where his health was declining to the point where he did not feel comfortable driving and being by himself with my mother. So they moved to Norfolk. I found them an apartment 4 blocks from where we lived, so it'd be no problem for me to run over whenever they needed help. It was close to the medical school, so I arranged all their care to be taken care of. And I'm, as I said, a nurse practitioner. My husband's a physician. So we thought we were in an ideal situation. We knew who to contact. We had everything all set up. And so they moved out. I thought this would be an easy win-win situation. I'd have time with my parents. They were close by, but it didn't turn out to be that way. It turned out to be overwhelming struggle at times. I mean, there's so many times as my father's health declined, my husband and I would look at each other and say, how do other family members know to do this? My father would have different problems with home health nurses. I knew how to call. I knew who to contact. I knew how to get home health aides in the house. I knew what to do. But still, so many times, it was just very overwhelming for both of us. And then after my father passed, my mother became quite ill, and she was in the hospital for 7 weeks. And during that time, she spent a week on life support in the intensive care unit. And then after that, we spent another 6 months living in the apartment where we had home health care, we had private duty aides coming in, and it just, same thing, it became too much for me. And luckily, family members stepped in, and my mother moved on with my sister.
That certainly sounds like a very challenging experience. Was there anything at all rewarding about that?
Oh, it was very rewarding. My daughters, at the time of this, my youngest was 6 months old, my oldest was 2.5. So I was balancing the responsibilities of my aging parents plus my young children. But it was a wonderful time. They got to know their grandparents over this 3.5-year period. My daughters would come home from preschool and they would sing songs to Grandpa. They would make him pictures, and we would spend time with them. And it got to be, I mean, the closeness of the family. And my daughters still remember taking care of Grandpa, and that part of life cycle, I think that's missing so much in modern society, where people aren't there taking care of the elderly like they used to, and back when the extended families aren't around. My family was right here. My children were there being part of it and helping out.
John, as we were getting prepared for the show, I shared with the both of you that one of the inspirations for why I wanted to do this show was my own sister, who took care of my father in the last years of his life and is now the principal caretaker of my mom. But you shared that you have had this experience as well. Could you share a little bit of that?
Yeah, my parents, this goes back about 25 years or so, but my parents lived in Philadelphia. Well, I lived in Philadelphia. My brother lived right close by in New Jersey. My parents lived in upstate Pennsylvania, so it was about a 3.5, 4-hour drive from our houses to where my parents lived. My parents were retired, and my mother had developed COPD. She'd been a lifelong smoker, and that's chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. And as a result of that disease, she would have times when she couldn't catch her breath at all, and that caused her to have oxygen deprivation to the brain. It's called an anoxic bout, and that caused her to have some brain damage that her behavior was a lot like if she had Alzheimer's at times. And she also had a very zany sense of humor. So,
so you come by that naturally.
That's right, yes. Okay. I do, actually. I can tell you stories. But in any event, my brother and I then would, every other weekend, one of us would go up every weekend. And so we would spell my dad, who was there 5 days a week. And like you, we had our newborn. And my mother was too weak to even hold this baby in her arms. So as the experience went, my sister then would fly in from the Midwest about once every 6 weeks. This went on for about 1.5 years, and my mother continued to deteriorate. And Terrence, I'll tell you, there's nothing so intimate as changing your mother's diaper.
Yeah, I can relate to that. I haven't done that with my father myself.
Yeah, and it's and it was, in a sense, it was rewarding in that I think we all became closer with my father as well as my mother, but with my dad, it taught me what the meaning of real devotion and duty is in a marriage. And being a gerontologist, I had read all about filial devotion. That is that you've got to get over this stuff when you're a kid, and you have harbor all these grudges against your parents. Right. When they need you, they need you. And so, in that sense, it was a very good experience. Mm-hmm. And then one morning at 6:30, my mother called, and she says, "I'm going to the nursing home." I made the world land speed record up to their place in the mountains so we could get her into the nursing home. Right. And that's the other thing I would end with, is that we often think of nursing homes as the last stop, as the place you don't want to go. Right. They're a really important part of the long-term care continuum. Over 6 months, my mother regained strength so that when she was at her height, she could put that grandbaby in her lap, and I could push her around the nursing home, and she could show off her grandchild. So, our job at Senior Services is to keep people out of nursing homes, but nursing homes are definitely a part of the overall continuum.
I can see that we definitely need to have you guys come back onto the show, because this is going to take quite a while to really fully explore. Right. I also want to take a moment to dedicate this show to my sister Kathy Anderson, Kathleen, and the two of you and all American family caregivers across the country, because I think that this is such a critically important issue that really needs to be more fully explored. Now, we've heard my own situation, my story with my sister, your story, and yours, John. Carol, is there a typical portrait of a family caregiver?
I think a typical family, it's hard to explain. When I think of caregivers, I think of a very broad definition of the word. Caregiver can be someone that's your neighbor that helps, with your grocery shopping. A caregiver can be someone that comes and does your bills. It can be someone that comes in and does prepares meals and also feeds that person. There's a very broad definition of it. That's why I think when the role of children start coming into it, like you mentioned earlier in statistics about children being involved with caregivers. But your typical caregiver is like what you said statistically. It's someone that's usually, for whatever reason, it becomes one. It's something that kind of sneaks up on you at times. It's something that can either be, like with my father. I started off just helping him out just a little bit here and there when he first moved to Norfolk. The next thing you know, I was in it full, helping with his medications, taking him to doctor's appointments, getting involved with the home health. That just sort of gradually came on. Other people are caregivers. If a family member was in a car accident, your parent has a stroke, you're now then a caregiver. But it crosses all boards, all economics, everyone, I think, is affected in one way or another by needing to be a caregiver.
What is the mission of the National Family Caregivers Association?
The mission of National Family Caregivers. National Family Caregivers Association was started in 1993 by Suzanne Mintz and Cindy Fowler. They were two friends who got together and just sharing their stories about being caregivers to their family members. And they found that they had a common bond, and that was the basic need for education, knowing about the different resources in the community, and just support. And that's what the basis of National Family Caregivers Association is supporting caregivers to know that they're not alone in what they're doing. There's help out there. We're also, part of the role is to find that help for them. National Family Caregiver website has a wonderful list of different links, of different resources, anything from planning funerals to what stages. What I think is fascinating is the stages of caregiving, to understand where you are in the role and to look down the path. And that's one thing that took me by surprise when I was a caregiver for my parents, because I was a home health nurse, I was a critical care nurse, I had all this nursing background. I thought, okay, I can see what's coming, and I still didn't see it coming.
You can't social work your own family. And I'm a social worker, my sister's a social worker, and my brother at the time was a social worker. My mother was a social worker. My father, thank God, was a construction worker. But the point is, just what you're saying is that no matter how well prepared you are professionally, this is your family. And you really need that. I think you really need that objective outside support and help to understand what's going on, because it's like you can't see the forest for the trees.
Right. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, I agree.
Yeah, we have prepared questions and answers for this show, but and oftentimes I say I'm going to go off script as I'm doing an interview, but I think this is one time that it really calls for that, and so because I want to address something that you just stated, that there are different stages of caregiving.
Yes. There's different stages. The first stage is like thinking it's going to happen. It's like if you look and you see, okay, like with my parents were living in Salt Lake City. I knew my father had end-stage heart disease. I knew eventually it was going to the point where he's not going to be able to take care of himself. My mother, thankfully, was very healthy. And I thought between, my mother and myself, we'd be able to take care of my father. So I knew eventually it was going to happen. The time seemed right for them to move out to Norfolk from Salt Lake City. I found an apartment which is close by. I knew it was going to have a point where they'd have to go to the hospital, so I had things planned out. So the first step is when you're thinking about being a caregiver. You're thinking about, okay, this may be happening. What are we preparing for? Do we need to put an addition on the house? When mom and dad eventually get sick and they have to live with us. The second stage is when you start actually doing a few things for them. Maybe you're starting to pay the bills. Maybe you're starting to do the yard work or call someone to do yard work. So you're slowly doing a little bit more, but you're still not identifying yourself as a caregiver. You're sort of like doing what you think needs to be done. The third step is when you're actually doing more. You're actually involved, like something sets it off. Like my father, his heart failure became worse. So he ended up in the hospital and ended up on an infusion that helped maintain his heart function. When that happened, I became more of a caregiver. I was no longer on the outside kind of helping a little bit more. I was actually in there every day, sometimes 2 or 3 times a day. My children would come with me. We'd go visit grandma and grandpa. They had their own little toys set off at the house. So while I was there doing things, helping my dad with his dressings, going through the medications with my mother, calling the doctors. A lot of times it's very hard for family members to talk to physicians and to other healthcare to figure out what's going on, what's the lab work. I'd be the one in there doing that. Right. And then the final stage is more when you get to the point where after the post-caregiving stage, where the person has passed or you no longer need your care. And that's a time when you kind of step back and you can either help others or just have time. I think it took me a while to recover. I hate to say that, but it is so emotionally and physically draining. I needed time just to recover. And at the point when my mother became ill and I had my sister volunteer, she said, you've been doing this for the last several years, it's my turn. And I'm lucky I'm one of 5 children, and so we all sort of rotate around because it becomes too much for one person. And that's one thing with National Family Caregiver Association. We really stress how it's important to get other people involved with your care. And being a nurse, I knew how to delegate. Even though at times I lost perspective, I knew what to do. I knew who to call and say to my brother, I can't do this anymore. You need to come help me. Or I knew when to reach out for home health. Different things that I had the benefit of just being a nurse.
You lost perspective because you were so overwhelmed.
Overwhelmed, yes. And exhausted. My dad, my poor father, at times he would get up and go try to use the bathroom at night. He was on medication to help pull the fluid off around his heart. A couple times he would fall in the middle of the night. And I just remember getting those phone calls and my heart would just drain. I knew that meant in the middle of the night I'd get up, go spend like an hour or 2 with my parents. I'm just, luckily a couple blocks away. I just would run over to their house, over to the apartment. But then you have the whole next day with small children. It's that whole, trying to balance your needs, the family needs, children.
Exactly. And what we find at Senior Services is so many people don't know where to go. That is, they don't know where to look for the help in terms of understanding the situation or how to connect, say, with the Alzheimer's Association, which has specialized education for family caregivers and can offer specific devices and training to families so that it makes it easier. They learn how better to care for folks. One of the great deficits in our society, because we've been afraid of aging, is that we have not done the kind of training of our youth and our young adults about exactly what we're talking about. If you think about it, you learn how to go to school, you learn how to learn, you learn how to get a job, you learn how to date, you learn how to parent, etc. But we don't do any preparation as a normal course of instruction about, well, I guess I really better think about what happens when I get old. With the stock market crashes recently, I think there's a lot more attention being paid to that by people my age. You're too young to be a baby boomer. But in all seriousness, the baby boom generation has just gotten a wake-up call, and with the notion of long-term care insurance and that sort of thing. But today's person, the average person watching this show, if I said to you, if you were going to move to Norfolk, who would you call to find out where to put your kid into school? The school district.
Right.
If I said, but if I said, oh, you're moving your parents from Utah, who are you going to call here that can help you with that? You wouldn't say Senior Services of Southeastern Virginia, although there is an area agency on aging in Salt Lake City, Utah, and we routinely play pitch and catch. So a lot of families who make that decision, who don't know where to go, who don't have the same knowledge of resources, will call us, and then we'll help them find the same array: affordable housing, a medical home, transportation. You know, and it's like you're coming to a new place. If you're still driving, you've got that whole thing to deal with. So, you know, helping you get set up in a new community, and if you are leaving a community, it's important to leave. Seniors live in the same place an average of 30, 35 years. So there's a whole lot of ending that's got to occur so that you can successfully begin, and then there's a whole lot of relationship things that happen, because it's not like I'm 6 hours away or I'm 3.5 hours away and I'm just seeing them on the holidays. Now I'm seeing them every day. And that puts a whole different perspective on how we are as children and how our parents relate to us, and the fact that, as you said with your data, we're all adults here.
Right.
And and so you've got decision-making issues. And a lot of times what we find at Senior Services is just having that social worker to reflect on, to talk back to say, it's driving me nuts. You know? She won't do what I think she should do. Well, I'm sorry, but that's your mom. Right. So that families need a place where they can go to learn about the resources. And we also find that families are very competent, and people will do what they need to do if they know where to go and how to negotiate those systems, because the systems that exist are still really fragmented. That is to say, social service department does one thing if you're going to apply, say, for Medicaid, for long-term care. The area agency does another. If you go to Catholic Social Services, Catholic Charities, or JF, Jewish Family Services, they do another. You almost need a translator to help negotiate all these different things, and that's part of what we do at Senior Services. And
I was about to ask you, you make referrals to different agencies. Can you and that's one of the things that you do, but can you just, for most of our viewers are going to be somewhat familiar with Senior Services, can you give us just a statement of what your mission is?
Yeah, our mission, which we've just recently changed and focused, is we help seniors to live with choice and dignity in their communities. I get up and go to work every day to keep people out of nursing homes. And our goal is to develop and provide comprehensive, coordinated systems of care to assist families, to seniors, their families, and their caregivers. So we might well work together with a person's family whose member has a psychiatric disorder, because the resources for those are really far and few between, and that's a whole big piece of work. We are a United Way agency, so we have all of our sister United Way agencies. You mentioned that kids are taking care of seniors.
Right.
You can flip that and think about what if your parents had been taking care of your children. And so we work with Catholic Charities, actually has a really great Grandparents as Parents program, along with several churches in the region. So we'll help those older people who are caring for a grandchild, raising a grandchild, to find the right resources to negotiate the educational system, the courts, as often happens, and then also social services, because you've got various benefits.
Well, time is squeaking by here, and again, we really need to have you guys come back on, because we've gone completely off script, and I'm enjoying every minute of it. But I want to make sure that we give some contact information on both agencies, and if there any remaining time, I have a few more questions I'd like to ask. If you could please give us some contact information on the National Family Caregivers Association, and you know, we're going to put it up on the screen.
Okay.
Yeah.
National Family Caregivers Association is located 10400 Connecticut Avenue, Suite 500, Kensington, Maryland, 800-895-3944. The toll-free number is 1-800-896-3650. The direct phone number is 301-942-6430. Fax is 301-942-2302. And if you can reach by the website, which has so much information, is www.nfcacaregivers.org.
And John, contact information, please, for Senior Services of Southeast Virginia.
Yes, 461-9481. 461-9481. That's the number to the Senior Services main office at the Center for Aging in Norfolk. We have offices all over the region. We cover down to the border, Carolina border, up to the Bay, and from the ocean out to Isle of Wight and Southampton County. We have the link to the Family Caregivers Association on our website. That's www.sseva.org. There is also a national, it's called Elder Care Locator. That's an 800 number, 1-800-667-1116. Chances are that many of your viewers, of our viewers, have relatives all over the United States. There's an area agency on aging in every locality in the United States. And if people want to call us at 461-9481, we'll either hook them up with that right away or give them the Elder Care Locator.
Okay, I want to ask you one last question here. When folks, you have on your website, the National Family Caregivers Association website, 10 tips for, and we don't have time to go over all of those tips, but they can go directly to that website to find that information, correct? Okay. The last question I did want to ask you, though, at what point did you realize that you wanted to reach out and become a member of the National Family Caregivers Association? Was it a part of your own experiences, doing those experiences, or?
It was after. It was after the fact. I went to a Caregivers Coalition meeting, and I heard Suzanne Minutz speak.
Right.
And what she was saying about a caregiver, I felt like the first time someone heard me. It's like she understood. Like I felt like no one really understood what was going on with me, which is very common with caregivers. You become isolated. You have a sense that no one is going through what you're going through. You're all alone, and which can lead to possibly depression and burnout syndrome.
And it was
hearing her,
right.
It just made me feel like, okay, I can do that.
Right.
And going through my experiences, both my husband and I felt like I was blessed because I had so much knowledge.
Right.
And I had so much experience, and it still was so difficult. And all we could think about was family members that did not have the medical background and professional experience that we had. What were they doing?
Well, I'm afraid that we are fresh out of time. I want to thank you so very much for coming on to talk about family caregivers. Again, it's a critically important public health issue. Again, thank you so very much.
And good luck to your sister.
Thank you. I appreciate that. My name is Terrence Afrie Anderson, and this has been Health Watch.